Good evening. Tonight we focus on a confrontation that could change life for millions of people. At dawn, the White House, led by Donald Trump, gave Canada a hard choice: 72 hours to accept new trade terms or face steep tariffs. That demand was clear. The clock was ticking. The document the White House released used calm language. It called itself a framework for a modernized bilateral trade relationship. The words sounded neutral. The meaning did not. In plain terms, the United States set 4 conditions. Each one asked Canada to give up something important before any talks began. Ottawa saw them as demands, not an opening for negotiation. First, the U.S. asked Canada to withdraw all retaliatory tariffs on American goods at once. That was not a gesture of goodwill to start talks. It was a precondition. Canada would have to remove its entire countermeasures package before a single formal meeting took place. Second, the U.S. wanted firm pricing promises on energy exports: crude oil, natural gas, electricity. The demand read like a request for guaranteed prices. Ottawa quickly noted what that would mean. It would put foreign limits on how Canada sells and prices its own resources. Third, the United States asked Canada to accept permanent tariffs on steel and aluminum exports. Reduced rates, yes, but permanent. That would enshrine a barrier as a lasting part of trade between the two countries. Fourth, Canada was asked to make its food and farm rules match American standards immediately. Not a gradual alignment, not a negotiation. A full adoption of U.S. agricultural and safety rules as a baseline for Canadian law. Put together, these demands would reshape how the two countries trade. They were not small changes. They were structural changes. The move would hit families and towns in real ways. Inside the White House, the move looked bold. It was meant to force a quick choice. The administration framed it as a step toward a fairer deal for American workers. The phrasing aimed to make the plan sound modern and cooperative. But the content was heavy and immediate. Ottawa moved fast. At a packed press briefing, the answer arrived in under 3 minutes. The response was short. It was clear. The reply came from Mark Carney. The man at the podium spoke only a few sentences. He stood calm. He spoke with steady pace. He said Canada would not surrender control over its laws or its resources before talks started. He said Ottawa would not accept price controls on energy set by another government. Then he stepped away. He answered no questions. He walked off camera. That moment changed the fight. The message was simple. Canada would not give up sovereignty to start a negotiation. It drew a clear line. And that line was meant to bind future choices. It made it politically costly for any Canadian leader to accept the same terms later without strong public backlash. Washington reacted quickly. The president called the rejection a big mistake. Officials called Canada ungrateful. The tone from the White House was blunt. The public messages were sharp and fast. Behind the posts, the picture was more mixed. Some Republican senators and state leaders raised alarms. They worried about energy and farm interests in their states. They began asking hard questions about the cost of a long fight. Those calls mattered. Lawmakers from energy and farm states have sway in any trade conflict that hits people at the pump or at the grocery store. Markets moved the same day. Traders read the Canadian reply as a sign Ottawa planned to stand firm. Investors adjusted positions. Energy firms felt pressure. Agricultural markets looked ahead to possible longer trade disruptions. Money flowed towards safety as traders prepared for the possibility of a longer standoff. At the heart of the fight is a basic assumption. The White House assumed that American market access is so large and vital that other countries will fold to American demands. For some countries, that can be true. For Canada, the logic is different. The two economies are deeply linked. The trade flows run both ways. Canada sells a lot to the United States. The U.S. buys oil and gas from Canada. Auto plants on both sides of the line depend on parts that cross the border many times during assembly. Farmers and food processors trade back and forth, disrupt the flow, and both sides feel it. Carney and his team clearly used that fact. They prepared a public answer that made it hard for Washington to win a quick political victory. The refusal was not just a rejection, it was a strategic move. It aimed to force the U.S. to choose between rapid escalation and a slower, more complex path. What happens next matters for ordinary people. 3 broad scenarios stand out. Each one leads to a different set of costs and a different outcome for families and businesses. Scenario 1. Pressure builds in the U.S. from senators and governors who fear the impact at home. The White House softens. It removes the most extreme demands. Talks start without preconditions. The two sides find a slower, smaller deal. Prices stabilize. The headline says both sides won something. Ordinary people breathe easier. Scenario 2. Neither side backs down. The 72-hour deadline ends with no agreement. Tariffs go into effect. Canada retaliates in kind. Cross-border supply chains feel real pain. Factories slow. Delivery times lengthen. Prices at the pump and on grocery receipts climb. The political cost grows in both countries. Negotiations restart under pressure and damage. Scenario 3. Canada stands firm and other partners take note. Allies watching this dispute decide to reduce their reliance on American markets. Canada speeds up ties with other countries. Over time, trade patterns shift. The United States loses some of its assumed leverage. That change would not be sudden. It would be slow and durable. But it would alter how other countries view American threats in future conflicts. All three paths are possible. The next days will show which one unfolds. For now, the choice sits with leaders in Washington and Ottawa, and with lawmakers who will judge the cost at home. We asked what this fight means for your wallet. If tariffs expand, gas prices can rise. Heating bills can climb in cold months. Food prices can go up if farmers lose markets or if supply chains get costlier. The impact touches everyday life fast. Businesses will adjust. Some will change supply lines. Others will seek different markets. The shift will take time and money. Small businesses tend to feel this pressure more quickly. They have less room to absorb higher costs. Workers in affected industries face uncertainty. Auto parts makers, steel workers, farmers, and energy workers will watch closely. Some jobs may move or shrink if trade changes become long-term. Governments on both sides will likely announce support for affected regions. But money and programs take time to reach local towns. Diplomacy will also matter. Behind closed doors, officials will keep talking. Trade lawyers and diplomats will map out legal options and timelines. They will look at treaties and trade rules. They will plan stage-by-stage responses and counter-responses. Public opinion will shape political choices, too. Leaders who face voters next election will weigh the local fallout. Governors and senators who see pain in their states will press their parties to find a fix. That pressure can tip a national policy quickly. For now, the public record shows the offer and the reply. The White House published a framework text that set out the demands. Canada answered quickly and refused preconditions. That exchange is now part of the open record and will matter for what comes next. It is worth noting that moments like this are tests of political strategy. One side may bet on speed and shock. The other may bet on steadiness and legal, economic firepower. The outcome depends on which bet holds up under pressure. Canada also has options beyond the immediate fight. It can seek more buyers in Europe and Asia. It can deepen trade ties and sign new agreements. Those moves take months or years, but they change the balance over time. The U.S. also faces limits. A large economy still feels pain when supply lines break. When gasoline or food costs rise, voters notice. That creates a political cost for leaders pushing an aggressive trade path. Those realities shape choices even when leaders act boldly. Tonight, analysts on both sides are parsing the words used at the press events. They study timing, tone, and the exact language. That parsing matters. A sentence can limit future options. A short refusal on camera can bind future leaders more than any private note. And that is the strategic core of what we watched. A short public refusal can alter future negotiations. It can make compromise harder later. It can rally domestic politics behind a stance, or it can harden another country's resolve. That is the raw power of public lines in high-stakes diplomacy. We will keep watching the headlines, the phone calls in Washington, and the market moves. We will track shipments at border crossings and the statements from energy and agriculture leaders. Each sign will help show which path this dispute takes. For people who want a quick read, remember this. The immediate fight began as a demand for rapid structural change. Canada answered quickly and refused to give up core controls. The result is uncertainty. The next 2 days will say a lot about whether the fight cools or grows. This story is significant not because it is about tension alone, but because it tests a basic idea about power. Does size alone decide outcomes, or do mutual needs and political effects matter more? The answer will shape choices by leaders and traders for years. If you care about prices, jobs, or the rules that shape trade, this is a moment to follow closely. Government actions in the next days will reach your monthly bills. They will touch local jobs. They will shape shipping lanes that pass through towns and ports across the continent. We will bring you updates as they come. Lawmakers in both capitals will be busy. Business leaders will make plans. Trade experts will write reports. And ordinary people will watch the price at the pump. For now, the message from Ottawa was direct. Do not ask a country to surrender its policy choices before talks begin. That was the line. That was the answer. And today, it changed the field of play for years to come. Let us look closer at energy. Canada supplies a large share of oil and gas to the United States. Many refineries in the U.S. rely on Canadian crude. If tariffs hit energy, the cost of fuel can rise quickly. Higher costs at refineries mean higher prices at the pump. Heating bills can rise too. That affects families in cold regions most of all. Energy companies also plan investments on long timelines. They build pipelines, terminals, and refineries with decades in mind. Uncertainty from trade fights can slow those investments. When projects delay, work slows and jobs stall. Local towns that depend on energy jobs feel that change sharply. Next, the auto industry. Cars today are built on parts made in both countries. A single vehicle can cross the border many times during assembly. Tariffs that raise the cost of parts change the math for factories. Automakers may pause lines or move work. When that happens, factory towns feel it quickly. A small change in tariffs can shift where a part is sourced and where a job sits. Supply chains are not just big business problems. They touch local shops, delivery services, and many small firms. Trucking companies move parts and goods across dozens of border points every day. Longer waits at crossings raise costs. Delays also hit schedules that retailers and factories expect. Small delays add up to big extra bills over time. Farming and food markets are also in play. Canada and the U.S. trade grain, meat, dairy, and processed goods every year. Farmers price their production based on known markets. A sudden change in access can cut demand and lower farm prices. Lower prices can harm farming communities and lead to calls for government help. Higher costs for imported feed or equipment can add new pressure too. Steel and aluminum are more than raw metal. They go into cars, pipes, machines, and buildings. A permanent U.S. tariff on those metals changes planning for manufacturers. It can make steel cost forecasts less certain. Builders and machine shops then plan for higher bills. That can delay projects and raise costs for construction and repair. Regulatory rules on food safety and farming affect what farmers can grow and how processors operate. If one side forces the other to adopt new standards, companies must change labels, processing lines, and testing. Those changes take time and money. Small processors can struggle. That raises pressure on local producers and their workers. Legal steps matter too. Countries can take disputes to trade bodies. They can file complaints or seek waivers. Legal fights are slow. They can take months or years. In the meantime, tariffs can be live and costly. That is why many governments try to solve big trade fights through talks rather than long legal battles. Beyond this fight, leaders face political risk. A sharp tariff that raises energy or food costs can change voter opinion quickly. When bills rise, voters notice. Lawmakers from affected regions will respond. They will press leaders to change course. That dynamic can bring fast political pressure even in large countries. What do experts say about these moves? Many analysts warn that rapid shocks are dangerous. Quick demands can lead to fast headlines. But slow, careful negotiation can often preserve trade ties while addressing real concerns. That is the balance leaders try to strike. Push for change, but avoid breaking the systems people rely on. That balance is hard when leaders want to show strength. A tight deadline makes a strong image. It draws attention and forces a choice. But it can backfire when the other side is ready to hold firm and when the economic ties are deep. The politics of image and the reality of supply chains can clash badly. Voices on the ground matter. Local chambers of commerce will speak up. Small business owners will call their representatives. Unions will weigh in for factory workers. Farmers will meet in local halls and ask for help. These local voices can change how fast lawmakers act. When a community hears that a plant will slow or that a farm will lose a buyer, the reaction can be swift and loud. For families, short-term steps are simple. Shop with a plan. Consider basic budgeting for fuel and food in the coming weeks. If prices rise, small adjustments can help. Community food banks and local supports often see more demand. Local leaders usually try to keep aid moving quickly, but it still takes time to reach everyone who needs it. What will happen in the next 48 hours is important. Talks may restart quietly. Lawmakers will call for briefings. The White House may clarify the text or adjust demands. Ottawa may signal new steps or begin private talks with European and Asian partners. Markets will keep moving as traders read each new statement. Each hour will bring fresh signals that show which scenario is most likely. Allies outside North America are watching too. If they see a large country use tariffs to push a small partner, they will take note. Some will look for ways to reduce risk. They may speed up deals with other partners. That kind of shift takes months, but it begins with a choice by leaders today. Media coverage will matter. Short, loud headlines shape public views. But deeper reporting can show the trade links and the real costs for local towns. That kind of reporting helps citizens and lawmakers weigh trade-offs with facts. We will keep offering clear, steady updates so you can follow how the situation changes. If you are a business owner, start planning now. Talk to your supplier and check alternative sources. Update your legal and trade advice. A quick plan can save money if tariffs hit. If you are a worker, stay in touch with your union and local leaders. Many regions set up rapid response teams to help workers when trade shocks hit. This is a live and evolving story. The next moves will not only set trade rules for the weeks ahead, they will shape how countries use economic pressure in future fights. That is why a short, public reply matters so much. A clear, calm answer can change the field of play for years. We will bring those changes to you as they happen. Tonight we watched a test of wills that reaches far beyond speeches. It is a test of trade, politics, and everyday costs. Leaders can choose hurry or caution. They can choose pressure or patient talk. Either path brings consequences you will see on bills, in job lists, and at border bridges. So pay attention. Watch your leaders and watch the markets. Ask questions of those who represent you. This is not a distant policy fight. It is a decision that reaches into towns and kitchens and workplaces. We will keep following it closely and report facts in simple terms. For now, the key fact is this: a 72-hour demand met a 3-minute answer, and the fight has only just begun. Good night. Stay informed. Stay calm. Share facts with people you trust and family.